Ever since Stellar Blade came out, it's been causing games journalists to melt down. Well, now the game has moved from the PS5 to the PC. And guess what? Oh, yeah, games journalists are melting down again because it's smashing all kinds of records. Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. Approximately a year ago, April of 2024, Stellar Blade came out for the PlayStation 5. A small Korean game with the protagonist of Eve, who was a bit of a hottie, and it did really well. It was a very, very solid game indeed. I played it, I highly enjoyed it. Had good combat mechanics. The world was really interesting to explore. Lots of puzzles, lots of mysteries, everything. Plenty to get a gamer invested. And yes, the eye candy wasn't bad either. But because of that, of course, it made a lot of games journalists melt down, because if there's one thing that a Western game journalist doesn't want in their games, it's an attractive female protagonist. They'd much rather you be in a gay relationship with a bear. No, an actual bear, not a hairy... Anyway, that's another thing for another time. But after performing very well on the PlayStation 5, considering the game had a very modest budget of somewhere in the region of $30 to $50 million, the game was always destined to come out on the PC. And a few days ago, it did. And it became the PlayStation 5's most popular port over to PC by a long shot, with a high concurrent user of around 190,000 people. Hell, at the recording of this video, it's peaked at 192,078, with 65,500 people playing right now. And I'm going to be joining them a little bit later on because I want to experience the game this time on PC, higher frame rate, better graphics, and of course, all dem mods. But before we go into that meltdown criteria, let's just see how it's doing, as the game itself has sold over 1 million copies on PC in just 3 days. GameSpot report that Stellar Blade launched last week on PC, and its first weekend saw the biggest spike in concurrent players, an early trend often seen with major releases. And bear in mind, of course, this has been out for over a year, reaching 192,078 concurrent players. As noted by industry analyst Daniel Ahmed, Stellar Blade is doing very well in China thanks to the Chinese dub of the game and it being priced much cheaper there. You can see that here in the West, the game goes for approximately $60. In China, it's going for $38, which is approximately the price that, let's say, Expedition 33 was selling for. And that did exceedingly well indeed, because it was priced very well and it was a stunning game. A game that's been out for over a year that can still hold a value of $38 and sell in droves. It really kind of lends the fact that this was a popular title that people really wanted to see on their PCs, particularly in the West, where you can still flog it away at full price. And with that aforementioned budget of around $30 to $50 million, this game has probably taken somewhere in the region of $100 to $150 million, making it very profitable indeed. They go on to say, Fifth Up also confirmed that Stellar Blade sold 1 million units in just 3 days. And with a combined PlayStation 5 sales, that brings the grand total to 3 million copies sold. And speaking of sold, I've actually become part of something which is selling right now on the Rippaverse website, Saints and Sinners #1. The Rippaverse's first anthology book with 6 different stories from 6 different writers. I'm making my writing debut in it. Mauler is making his writing debut in it. Other stories include Critical Drinker, Drunk 3PO, the Soska Sisters, and Eric July himself. There is 32 days left of the campaign. We're over 8,370 books sold, taking over $300,000, and it's available right now. So if you want to support your favorite creators, myself, Mauler, Drinker, Drunk 3PO, Soskas, or Eric himself, then please go over to the link in the description box down below and pick yourself up a copy of Saints and Sinners right now. Now, I emphasize sold and not players because, of course, we had the whole furore with Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed Shadows. But Shift Up, the developer of Stellar Blade, were more than happy to be very transparent with how many units had sold. Posting on their Twitter account, they say, to all players, good use of language here, around the world who have shown love for Stellar Blade, we extend our deepest gratitude and respect. Stellar Blade, hashtag 3 million, hashtag for players, hashtag PS5, hashtag PC. And there we go. A big thank you as we see Eve here on the left blowing kisses for the 3 million copies sold. Now, when Assassin's Creed, of course, tried to flex about numbers in regard to that game, which was doing exceedingly poorly, all they could do was post player account numbers, not how many units are sold. And even to this day, they still haven't said how many units of the game has sold, but it is rumored and it has been worked out to be somewhere in the region of just over 2 million. When they decided to play silly beggars, posting 2 million players in the game, 3 million players in the game, they got to 3 million players on the 27th of March, and that's where it stopped because it doesn't appear that there were too many more after. Ubisoft forcing to sell 25% of the company on the release week of this game, which in itself explains everything that you need to know about how diabolical the sales for this game actually were. And Assassin's Creed Shadow didn't have a $30 to $50 million budget like Stellar Blade did. Oh no, that game was racking up in the hundreds of millions of dollars, which means, of course, that whereas Stellar Blade can shift 3 million copies sold and make a nice profit, even if Ubisoft was to sell 3 million copies of Assassin's Creed Shadows, the game would still be in the red. It wouldn't be anywhere close to even breaking even. Hence why you got to sell a quarter of your company on the week of release. And of course, Stellar Blade is simply out for the PlayStation 5 and the PC. It's not making its way to Xbox, and it most likely won't make its way to Xbox because, of course, you have their framework, and their framework is how a game can actually be placed upon the platform. But then, of course, there is the meltdown. The meltdowns that now that this is on PC, people have licensed to create mods. The game can be changed. And here on PC Gamer site, Guna Game of the Year Stellar Blade mods are 41% smut, ensuring gamers will never see the light of heaven. What an incredibly retarded title for an article. First of all, Guna Game of the Year. Why? Because Eve is attractive, because Eve actually has curves, because Eve has breasts and an anus, something, of course, that Western gaming journalists are absolutely frightened of. I think they're just frightened of women in general. But what makes them even more mad is that when they tried to call all this bullshit out many moons ago, it was revealed that Eve was actually created on the representation of a real woman. A real woman. And that, of course, broke all of their little brains. The article continues. Stellar Blade finally hit PC 2 days ago, giving everyone a chance to do whatever it is this game is actually about. Why haven't you played it? It would be your job to play it, n'est-ce pas? Considering you want to critique it, criticize it, do whatever you want with it. I imagine that you have played it. And if you have played it, then it's pretty obvious what this game is about. But you have to use this type of language because this game has got you so butthurt because the protagonist is an attractive female character that, and I don't want to upset anyone here, that straight males might actually enjoy playing, and females might actually enjoy playing as well. Heaven forbid. Unfortunately, no one knows what that is because the entirety of discourse surrounding it is about the main character's butt, which it's not. Of course, this is hyperbolic gaslighting language. The game was very clear in its direction in terms of story, from the post-apocalyptic world that it inhabited to what the mystery actually was and who you were fighting. It became very easy. And I don't want to give spoilers away in case you haven't played it, but there are some things which will become, I think, very apparent the further into the game that you go. Just because Eve is an attractive female character whose costumes you can change and costumes are unlockable, does that take away from any of it? No. I remember once upon a time in video games, one of the reasons to hit the end of the game was because you would actually get yourself some unlockable costumes. Resident Evil games being, of course, one of those. It's always great to get unlockables in the game, whether it's upgrades to equipment or cosmetic changes. Hell, MMORPGs live and die by cosmetics, cosmetic mounts, cosmetic clothes, cosmetic hairstyles, changes, all this sort of stuff. So the fact that this person is literally having a hissy fit over the fact that you can do some stuff or that the character is attractive just shows exactly how mad they are that the game is successful. Heaven forbid that it sells more copies. Well, now that butt is on PC, I'm sorry that a female butt offends you. Maybe fucking a bear butts would be much up your alleyway. And you know what that means, mods. And if I were to make a book right now on how many of those mods somehow made Stellar Blade even more not safe for work, why would you be playing Stellar Blade at work? Unless, of course, you're a games journalist, in which case you should be playing it at work. No? Okay. Then it is out of the box. I suspect I wouldn't make very much money, at least because you've probably all read the headline. But in sweetheart, you're getting $10 for this article, for fuck's sake, calm down. By intense scientific calculus, counting, fully 96 of the 234 mods, that's 41%, don't you know, that currently exist for Stellar Blade are marked as adult. And frankly, some of the ones that aren't marked as adult are probably not safe for work. How do you feel about Eve, feet, hands, good? Would you discuss that with your grandparents over Christmas dinner? Again, more gaslighting, more fake rhetoric. What somebody does and mods on their own game is their own business, you know? I mean, I can't say that I'm madly into gay sex with a bear like is in Baldur's Gate 3, but Baldur's Gate 3 was a very successful game. and games journalists were praising this bestiality that was placed within there. Not something that I would personally think would be a topic of conversation for grandparents either. In actual fact, I would go so far as to say neither of these would be appropriate conversation with one's grandparents. But the thing is, neither should they be. It only took 3 hours for somebody to upload the first Oblivion remastered Guna mod. Well, quite frankly, I gotta say I'm a wee bit disappointed about that. 3 hours? It took you that long? Come on, guys, you gotta up this. You gotta get your shit in order. Stellar Blade is doing better numbers than almost every other PlayStation port on Steam. And it's probably not just because of the nude mods. No, it's a good game. The gameplay is good. There's absolutely tons to do. There's a huge variety in the world. There is a lot. The eye candy aspect is an absolute minuscule part of the game. And the fact that it's got so much attention really gives away the Western gaming journalists. That's what it truly gives away. And how mad you are that there is a game that straight people might actually find appealing to play the protagonist on, as opposed to some fat, ugly, blue-haired Portlandian land whale that you want to push as stunning and brave and must be played, or some crap like that. And that's why Western gaming journalism has fallen into utter irrelevancy. Stellar Blade, and let's bring a game, for example, like Wukong into this conversation as well, did very well indeed because they hit that sweet spot for gamers. They both had exceedingly good gameplay. They both had great worlds to explore with absolutely tons of stuff to do. Loads of customization, great narratives or interesting narratives that kept you invested in the story. And I think more importantly, they weren't bogged down by any pathetic Western identity politics or crap like that. They just did what they were meant to do, be fun, engaging video games, with Wukong actually doing much, much better numbers than Stellar Blade did. But one thing that these two games have in common is they had much, much lower budgets. Stellar Blade, $30 to $50 million. Wukong, $60 million. There wasn't the bloat that is in the Western gaming industry as well, where their games go past 400 million in some cases. It's absolutely ridiculous. Get rid of the red tape, focus on your mission, and you will succeed. And because games like Stellar Blade and Wukong have both been exceedingly popular without having to fall into Western identity politics or shit like that, that had a very clear vision by developers that weren't bogged down by red tape or had to adhere to these pathetic rules of DIE or ESG and became successful, is what is truly making Western gaming journalists mad, because Western gaming journalists think that they have power, and they don't. They lost it all. They have a relationship with the developers, the Western developing game companies, and that relationship no longer serves the customer. And therefore, they get frustrated because nobody's listening to their ranting and ramblings. They can call us all racist or sexist, or it's Gamergate 2.0 or 3.1 or 6.9. It doesn't fucking mean shit anymore. People now go to YouTube. They now go to people they actually trust to give them an honest answer about the game. So they can spurg out as much as they want about sexy female protagonists that actually have breasts, because guess what? Women have breasts and asses and legs and all kinds of shit like that. And it drives them mad that maybe heterosexual men find that attractive. And they can scream until they're blue in the face, but nobody gives a flying fuck. A game is always going to be successful predominantly based on one major factor. Is it any good? And if it is, it's most likely going to sell, particularly when it gets word of mouth, and particularly when it does have a little bit of marketing behind it as well. Congratulations to Stellar Blade on doing so well. I'm so glad that you can now measure success by how mad Western gaming journalists become. I'll see you in the next video. You take care. Bye for now.